Welcome to Classroom Quest K-12, where the art of teaching embarks on an epic gaming adventure. I'm your host, Stephanie Seagroves, bringing over a decade of teaching experience to this educational quest. This podcast is a rallying point for educators, combining the thrill of gaming with transformative teaching strategies. Here we use the Mastery Gamification Methodology to overcome student apathy and engage students in their own hero journey. So grab a cup of coffee and get ready, because you and I are about to launch our quest. Hey teacher friend, I'm so glad you're here at the first episode of Classroom Quest K-12 podcast. In this first episode, I want to start by thanking you, fellow teacher and brother-in-arms. Teaching is hard, and it seems to get harder every year, but the teacher heart is strong. I'm hoping that this podcast will help us join together and support each other on this difficult yet rewarding path we have chosen. So before I get too far into this, let me introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Seagroves, and I've been a classroom teacher for more than 10 years. I accidentally got way too many teacher certifications as my teaching journey had some detours. I graduated from a university in my home state of Michigan with a Spanish and an elementary teaching degree. And I worked in elementary for a short time. But then my small school needed a middle school and high school Spanish teacher. So I went back to school to get the degree. And I've worked in middle school and high school for the majority of my teaching career. While I was getting my high school certification, I needed to get a teachable minor. And my school was getting an influx of ELL students. So I also got certified in ELL K-12. And I've also had the privilege of working with that group of students. I've had the opportunity and privilege to work with every grade level in one way or another. Today, on this first episode, we're tackling a topic close to my heart: how the landscape of education is evolving and what we as educators can do about it. You know, it's no secret that students have changed. The way they learn, interact, and engage with the world has undergone a dramatic shift. Many teachers say that student apathy is at record highs and student engagement at record lows. And teachers? Well, we're mostly just trying to keep up. But amidst all this change, the one constant in education is our unwavering dedication to our students. We're here because we want to make a real difference in students' lives. Yet with long standards and short attention spans, rising apathy and dwindling grit, our journey is fraught with challenges. Yet, despite or maybe because of our dedication to these kids, many teachers are frustrated. I personally hit the teacher frustration big time about 5 years into my teaching career. There were a number of circumstances that converged at the same time, and I really hit rock bottom. You see, when I first started teaching, it was before Spanish was required as a graduation requirement. Okay, sorry, I know it's not Spanish, so any language teachers out there, it's any language, but Spanish is definitely the most common one. So Spanish was an elective when I started, but then my population changed. So foreign language became a graduation requirement, and instead of just having the kids that wanted to come to Spanish class, I got everybody. And yes, I know that puts me in the exact same boat as everybody else, but I really saw a change in how students learned, how students who chose to be there learned differently than students who had to be there. With the state standards that we have here, Spanish is often set up to be a difficult class. Students usually don't receive foreign language education until middle school at the earliest. When students arrive in my classroom, they have no idea how to study a foreign language. So I'm definitely teaching study habits in addition to my content. Even though my class was required for graduation, it was still considered an elective and not a core class, and my overworked special education colleagues were not able to be present in my classroom to give support like they were in the core classes. This was not the special education teacher's fault or the school administration's fault. Times were hard and public schools were understaffed, But it really left me in a difficult situation. I had everybody, including kids in special education, and no special education teacher to help me out. Around the time that my population changed from kids who wanted to be there to everybody, our student SLO data began to be used in our evaluations also. So in case you call SLOs something else, SLOs are just the measurement of how much a student learns in my class. My SLO data was horrific. Oh my goodness. Students would come to my class with no idea how to study. They weren't interested in it. And yet, somehow, I was the one who was held accountable for their grades, for their SLO data. It really didn't make any sense to me. But because of all this, I had a really high fail rate and even had a nice, real conversation with my administration about the high fail rate and that I needed to turn it around. ... You know that ... Again, all these events were no one's fault. It was just several bad circumstances that happened around the same time. All of this made me feel like a failure. I had gone to university. I had earned way too many degrees. I took on the student debt to learn how to teach. I was staying late. I would meet with my students after school in tutoring hours to give them individual intervention, but my results were not meeting my effort or my ability. I took it really hard and my effectiveness rating dropped. Have you ever hit this level of feeling like a failure? It's becoming more and more common among educators. But ultimately, it was this frustration that led me to create the Mastery Gamification Methodology. So you may be wondering, what exactly is the Mastery Gamification Methodology? So imagine combining mastery learning, standards-based learning, and the engaging elements of gamification into one seamless, potent educational strategy. It's about creating a learning environment where students lead and where every teacher can easily spot and support those who are struggling. This system revolutionized my classroom. Student grades went up, my fail list went way down, and my students actually learned my content. My evaluation and effectiveness ratings went up. My students now take ownership of their own education. Both myself and my students feel empowered in my classroom now. But why use the Mastery Gamification Methodology? Change is hard and educators are already overstressed. Well, let me tell you a story about a young boy. Let's call him Johnny. Johnny struggles in school. Johnny has received feedback from his environment that he is not smart and that school is hard. Therefore, Johnny doesn't want to try at school, and because he doesn't try, he falls further behind, therefore confirming to himself that he is not smart enough for school. He doesn't pay attention, he messes around in class, and he bothers students near him. He is the human definition of apathy in the classroom. He seems to not care about school, and no one can make him care, no matter how many meetings they hold. However, when Johnny goes home and turns on his video games, suddenly Johnny has passion and he has grit. When Johnny turns on his game to pick up where he left off yesterday, he finds it is his 5th time trying to finish this level, and he's so close to finishing. The fact that he's tried 5 times doesn't bother him for long. He keeps going for 4 more attempts before he finally beats the boss, receives his badge, and levels up to the next level in his game. Then, if his mom doesn't make him go to bed, he starts the same routine with the next level. What happened to Johnny? How is this the same child? The student who has no grit, no passion, no interest in school suddenly becomes a passionate, gritty, problem-solving genius? Wouldn't you love to bottle that motivation and use it in the classroom? What if teachers could hack the psychology of video games and get the same dedication from students in the classroom? That's the Mastery Gamification Methodology. By applying this methodology, teachers can effectively harness student-centered learning advantages, transforming students like Johnny into engaged and happy students. And that's what the Mastery Gamification Methodology is all about. It's not just a teaching strategy. It's about hacking into the psychology of what makes games so engaging and transplanting that into our teaching. It's about igniting that same passion and perseverance in educational settings. So where does this journey lead us? I invite you, my fellow educator, to join me in this gamification voyage. Whether you teach kindergarten or high school, history or physics, there's a way to adapt and apply this methodology. It's a research-backed pedagogical framework to use with your existing curriculum. Imagine a classroom where students are not just learning, but thriving, taking ownership of their education and, dare I say, having fun while at it. In each episode, I'd like to tell you a little bit about how I or one of my teacher friends is using the Mastery Gamification methodology in their classroom. My current Mastery Gamification project is to apply this method to my Spanish 2 class. See, I first Mastery Gamified my Spanish 1 class. They were my guinea pigs to see how this method would work. Shout out to any of my students who are listening. Now that I feel like I finally know what I'm doing in Spanish 1, my Spanish 2 students are starting to get bored. They went through a Mastery Gamified Spanish 1 all year last year, and now regular class seems boring. So I'll be keeping you up to date on how it goes with Mastery Gamifying my Spanish 2 class. So I've been working on my characters for Spanish 2, and I'd like to introduce you to Astrid. If you're watching this video, you can see that Astrid has long platinum blonde hair, and her freckles are in the shape of constellations. Astrid is born of the stars, but has the ability to walk on the earth with humans. Her celestial origins give her a unique perspective on the problems we have here on earth. She's going to be the companion of my students as they go through their Mastery Gamified Spanish 2 adventure. Well, teacher friend, it's about time to wrap up this first episode. Before we go, let me leave you with this thought. Empowered teachers empower students, and empowered students learn. I hope this episode is leaving you feeling a little more empowered with the skills needed in the classroom. Thank you for tuning in to Classroom Quest K-12. If you're curious to learn more about the Mastery Gamification methodology or want to join the conversation, head over to my Facebook or Instagram. And if you know a teacher friend that would be interested in what you heard today, make sure to share this episode with them. Also, for those eager to see if this approach fits your teaching style, don't forget to sign up and get your free quiz at seagrowstrategies.com. Until next time, keep inspiring, keep teaching, and keep making a difference.